Welcome to the CX Sessions from the Customer Experience Innovation Institute. Every episode, we provide an innovative perspective on customer experience from the people who are changing your world, one experience at a time.
Welcome to CX Sessions from Melbourne, Australia. I'm your host, Simon Chris, and joining me today is the one and only Brad Cleveland, who joins us from Idaho, from Sun Valley. Brad is very well known to the contact center industry. His book, Contact Center Management on Fast Forward, has been somewhat of a Bible for the industry for the last 30 years. And so it's really exciting to catch up with you today, Brad. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Simon. Great to be with you.
Now, Brad, the word guru is most often attached to you, even though I know you hate that title. We've talked about that before. But for those that aren't in the contact center space, our other listeners in broader CX, could you talk a little bit about yourself and your journey? How did you come to be in CX, be here today?
Oh, thanks for that. So I walked through doors that opened. I'd love to say there was some long-term plan, but I started with a telecom computer company back in. I was still in college at the time. Lowest person on the totem pole, and I ran cable for this company. So I spent a lot of my days underground, under corporate buildings and hospitals and different kinds of structures, running this cable for these new systems. And I had a supervisor who let me know in no uncertain terms that you got to do this right or they could fail months or years later. So he was a little rough around the edges, but a great inspiration to me, and especially as I look back. So one day I actually got the chance to be above the ground floor working on installations in offices, and I left fingerprints on a computer monitor. We're trying to install a bunch of offices quickly, and he's like, the first thing they're going to see is your fingerprints. They spent all this money on this system. They spent months planning for it. They're excited about it. And they're going to walk in and see your fingerprints. And I felt about an inch high. And he was right. I needed to hear that. And we were just busy and trying to knock out a bunch of offices. And it kind of got under my skin a bit. Like, this is cool. Like, customer experience is everything. It's all the design that goes into these systems and anything else that we're doing, whatever service sector or whatever vertical sector we're in. It's all the design, all the effort, all the operations and processes, but it's also fingerprints on a monitor that can impact a customer's perspective. So I read anything I could get a hold of. Jan Carlson's book, Moments of Truth, back in the 80s was very influential on me. He used to use examples like, if you board a flight, he was a CEO of Scandinavian Airways at the time. If you board a flight and there's a coffee stain on a tray, you're going to wonder, is that how they maintain the engines? So just this whole everything works together theme just inspired me. So I read and consumed anything I could. And when fast forward some years, became a founding partner in the ICMI, the International Customer Management Institute. That opened a lot of doors for me around the world, and I got a chance to work with a lot of very leading edge organizations in terms of customer experience, and learn from them, even as we were providing consulting and training to their teams. And yeah, it's been a fun journey, Simon. I'd love to say I had a plan for it all, but it was just a lot of try to do a good job over the next 3 hours and walk through doors that open.
Yeah, I think that's true of so many people in the CX industry. I often call it the open door policy, as in you were walking past the boss's open door when he decided he needed a contact center manager or something, and it
Right.
was, hey, get in here, and suddenly you're off on a new journey. And I think those that lean into it tend to be some of the best people in CX, and we're going to be interviewing a lot of them over the next year or two. And thank you, by the way, for being the inaugural CX session. I really appreciate that. Um,
You know,
you've
it's such
been
an honor, and I can't wait to, yeah,
no, thanks.
can't wait to see where the podcast goes. Knowing you, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It'll never be dull, that's for sure. You've been all over the world. You've advised the Australian government. You've kind of worked across the board, and you continue to. I hate to see how many air miles you've got in your account, but what are you seeing as the current trends? What's going on out there in the world of CX, be that contact center or broader CX?
Yeah, that's a great question because I'm seeing, and I imagine you and others that are working on the ground out there are seeing something a little different than what we're reading in the trade publications and all the banter at conferences. You know, you go to an event or you read something, it's all about AI. It's all about the cloud-based services. It's all about the just the latest in mapping out experiences and this and that. All fine. That all of that's a huge part of it for sure. But I'm seeing on the ground a real roll up your sleeves effort to align every decision with where we want things to go, with what our brand is and the experience we want our customers to have. The customer experience breaks down in operations. And I'm seeing some really great work right now. And yeah, all the newest tools and all of that are terrific. But we've got to make sure our quality standards, our operations, every decision at every level is supporting the customer experience we want our customers to have.
Mm.
I think
And
that's exciting. A lot of hard work right now.
yeah, you touch on an interesting point, and it's one I'd love to pick up. This whole thing of AI, where, as is typical with any new technology, we're getting some people saying AI means the death of call centers, through to, oh, I'm not really going to use it. This whole death of call centers thing that's been, washing around the industry. What's your take on that?
I'll tell you a quick personal story that just kind of resonates with so many disruptions, resonates with me with so many disruptions that have come along. But in the 90s when the internet was, really reaching every business, most consumers, I remember working with some ICMI clients, and I arrived in a hotel the night before a project, and I flipped on the news, and there were some of the attendees of the Davos conference talking about where the internet was going to take the world, and one of them said, if you're in customer service, run the other direction as fast as you can because that's one industry that's going to be taken over by these new capabilities. This was the dot-com era. All very exciting to see what was happening, but I didn't see that on the ground. But I will admit to you, Simon, I'm standing there in my hotel room listening to this conversation, thinking, am I in an industry that's, the gig is almost up? I mean, are contact centers, is customer service going to be subsumed by this wave of technology? And I just wasn't seeing it.
Mm.
And what happened is, a lot of organizations believe those predictions. And when the economic downdraft happened in the early 2000s, they cut budgets across the board. Like, look, technology is going to help us with a lot of this load anyway, right? So let's get there quick. And the service was so bad. I've got a file of press on this industry over 30 years now. The service was so bad. There was one front page story after another on how lousy customer service is, just painful. And you wouldn't want to sit on a plane in those days and tell your seatmate what you do, if you're in customer service, because you'd hear about it.
Yep.
So that prediction happened with smartphones a decade later. It happened with machine learning and all the capability. AI has been around a long time now.
Yep.
Generative AI is getting a lot of press right now, but AI has been around for a while. And every disruption, it's like, oh, it's going to bend the curve of what we need. And what we forget is the world's not a zero sum, pie that we're splitting up. It's dynamic, it's growing, and service is elastic. Make it better, and there's new demand for it, new types of services around it. So contact centers aren't going away, and it drives me crazy when I see those predictions because there are too many organizations that believe it and paint themselves into a corner in terms of planning the kind of services they need. And you can
Yeah.
tell I feel strongly about that one.
No, no, and that's exactly why I asked that question. I knew you did, and that's just a great example of, we saw it. ACDs were going to kill the call center. IVRs were going to kill it. The Internet of Things was going to kill the call center. Everything. But you're right. Even though AI may take away some of the more basic fundamentals, the basic calls, there's still going to be vulnerable people. There's still going to be our parents and, well, maybe not our grandparents, but parents and things that still just want to pick up the phone. They just want to talk to somebody, or their need is so urgent that they want to just communicate with a human immediately. And
Well,
so I agree with you. I don't
yeah,
think it's going to go away.
yeah, and when I refer to a contact center, it's any channel, so it's any interaction, and I love what AI can do. I mean, we're seeing our clients really push the limits on, when you can turn an email or a chat communication around in a matter of seconds, when you can make this multi-screen environment a lot cleaner and a lot easier. One example after another, what AI is doing right now, voice biometrics and all the things around authentication, really great. But it enables us then to focus on the customer. And any of us, I mean, the tech support, the most complex travel situations, and insurance claims on something that's pretty involved, one example after another. And contact centers have never been more important. We don't want to handle the routine stuff. We don't want to handle the things that, AI and other capabilities can help with. We want to handle the things that we're as humans best at. And that's what I get really excited about is we're really creating an environment where rather than spending a lot of my day as an agent focused on all these screens and all these apps open on my desktop and all the process issues I've got to think through and take this field and paste it in over in this screen. It's excruciatingly difficult to try to do what a computer can do best. And when they start helping us out, we can really focus on the things that matter.
Yeah, you touch on a great point. I remember many years ago, I made a comment at a conference that computer telephony integration had been around since the beginning of call centers, and somebody argued and said, "No, no, no, it only just." And I said, "No, no, you're forgetting the original computer telephony integration was the call center agent, was the human, right? We listened to it and we
Right.
typed it in." And that
Right.
that's kind of changing up today. Are you also seeing, and I know you have done so many courses on LinkedIn that is just some great content. And for our listeners, I'll be putting a link through to your LinkedIn bio and stuff. Are you seeing,
Thank you.
because of AI or because of just changes in tech, that the role of the agent, the skills of the agent, and therefore the quality of the agent is starting to change?
Absolutely. It's such a great question and one that we've got to continue to ask as leaders in these environments. What is the skill set we need and the ability that we need? And we need some pretty sharp folks. We always have, but we need some really sharp service representatives to sort through what needs to happen to connect the dots. Artificial intelligence is not artificial wisdom, and in these higher end, high leverage, high value interactions that are increasingly a part of the contact center mix, we've got to make good decisions. And one could one could argue these aren't only not entry level jobs, but you've got to have a fair amount of experience and you've got to have some wisdom and you've really got to understand our customers and our brand and the capabilities that we're using to deliver services. So short answer is yeah, we need some pretty smart folks.
Yeah, and that's going to play on too, right, to team leaders and particularly contact center managers, right? Contact center leadership. Does this mean there could be a rewrite of contact center management on fast forward coming?
Well, I'm under deadline right now, so how'd you know?
Yeah,
2024. But to the point of the question, which is a great one, are the principles going to change? The underlying principles? No. Are the tools and capabilities and services that we're delivering and our brand promise and how that's evolving? Those things are changing, and uh, our brand values, what we stand for, certainly shouldn't. But the world's changing very quickly, and so yes, we're going to have to approach some things differently, even as those underlying principles are there and at work, and we can count on them.
yeah, wonderful. And from what you're seeing, who's doing something really cool, really new that's recently made you go, wow, I didn't, that's a cool way of doing that.
I mean, I love video applications. I was in a contact center just recently that had interactive language skills. So you can be from, you can speak virtually any language and have a conversation with someone real time. That neither of you are real proficient in the other language, and it was just almost fluid. It was almost like having a conversation like we're having. So there's some really great things happening. And at the end of the day, it's creating that human connection. I mean, these tools, when they're used right, they don't isolate us. They enable us to connect, and I think that's important, especially in today's world.
Yeah, right on. Well, let's shift gears a little and just talk about, in your mind, what's the future? Where are we going? Whether that's, you know, 2 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out. I'm asking you to look into the crystal ball and give me the Brad Cleveland view.
Well, I think we're going to see human connection where it really matters. So a lot of the things that, in customer service and customer experience in general right now that involve human interaction, we can get help with, and we will, and it's happening very quickly with generative AI and some of the latest tools. What they don't do for us and where we really have opportunity is the human connection piece. And isn't it delightful when there's a person there you can have a real conversation with where and as that's needed? Someone that really understands where you need things to go as a customer, and they're using all the best tools, and it's just seamless. It just works. So I feel that the future is, you know, it'll start out in a screen, and it'll be an entry point into a service um, environment from there, and it'll be seamless and easy, and probably not unlike a conversation you and I are having right now, where we're taking this where we want to go, and it's easy. The tools are working for us. So omni-channel, the promises of AI, all of these things are works in progress right now, and the future is going to be easy. It's going to be seamless, and it's going to offer human connection where that really adds value and makes a difference
Okay, so low effort and high human connection when needed.
when needed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm seeing some companies shift away from voice. Frontier Airlines, Breeze Airlines, people like that. And here in Australia, we have a large liquor retailer. Now, no, not that I use their services very much, but a large liquor retailer, and they're all closing their voice channels to just focus on non-voice. Is that something you're seeing, or you expect to see more of, or less of, or do you think it's industry dependent? What are you thinking on that?
Yeah, there's already a bit of a backlash to Frontier and what they're trying to force there. So I don't expect I don't expect organizations to be able to control or mandate channels that you use. I think customers are going to vote with their feet. Clearly, we don't need voice in a lot of places where we have voice today. Chat is probably a channel that's not going to be around the way it's in use today forever. It's a bit kludgy. It's doesn't work real well unless we staff it just right and really resource it well. So it's great today, but I think we're going to see these channels really lend themselves to what's easiest for customers in the future. And I don't think we can sit here and just say, well, we're not going to have voice. We're not going to have text or video. We'll see. We'll see what's going to make it easy, what's easiest and best for customers.
It does feel a little bit in some ways like everything old is new again, right? I remember you and I some years ago having a discussion about when companies said, "Oh, we're just going to push those customers to web, or we're just going to push those customers here and push." And I remember us talking about what gives the company the right to push a customer anywhere. You need to be where
Right.
the customer is, right, rather than push. And we seem to be repeating the sins of the past and kind of going back
Isn't
there.
it, isn't it interesting? I mean, these things go full circle and you, having a little bit of an awareness of how things have evolved to this point in any organization is helpful as they look to the future. We don't. You're exactly right. We don't want to make the mistakes that we have in the past, and there's no need to.
Yeah, and it's the same with customer archetypes, right? Oh, this type of customer is a web customer. It's like, hang on, nobody is a single channel customer. Everybody wants to, depending on what they're doing. What's your favorite channel when you're contacting a business? What do you go to first? What do you look for first?
If it's an ongoing relationship, the app is great. I sure don't want to be forced into an app if it's not an ongoing relationship. Um, Generally speaking. So search and getting me to self-service. I'm probably like a lot of people. I want to see if I can solve it myself quickly and easily. If I can't, I want to go right into an ecosystem that lends itself to the best channel. So the other day I had just use Apple as an example. I had a challenge with my MacBook Pro. It was just before a trip, so I was under a deadline, and was able to chat with someone who was very helpful and chat was the right channel. I got a link. I was able to download a solution in very little time, all seamless. There was another challenge I had a while back, just to use the tech world as an example. Again, where I needed to talk to someone, they needed me to walk me through things. So yeah, you're right. There's just no way to put us in, these buckets. And well, that's all where you're always going to be. It really does depend.
Yeah. And what would be for a new person, a new manager getting into let's just focus on the contact center space, a new manager into a contact center space. What would be your one piece of wisdom for them?
Spend some time doing the job and don't get too far removed from that. You've got to sit there and use the systems and engage with customers and live the metrics and the rules to understand what makes sense and what you may need to change as a leader as things evolve.
That's a great bit of advice. That's a great bit of advice. All right, we're going to jump into the quick fire round that I said we are going to do with three quick questions. First one, what makes a great customer experience for you?
Seamless and easy. Wherever you are, what the channel that makes sense, seamless and easy. Channels that make sense, perhaps. We're talking about omni-channel. It just works. It's so
Okay.
good you don't tell anyone about it because there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It was so good I just moved on. Yeah. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword. If your service isn't great, you get talked about, and if your service is fantastic, nobody talks about it. Yeah.
Right?
Second one, what
Yeah.
do you wish more companies did right in CX?
Design for an approach that consistently supports CX in day-to-day decisions. So don't just have a CX team that's doing all the right CX things and not really involved in working with the on the ground operations throughout your organization.
Okay. And the final one, what book are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm revisiting Deep Work by Cal Newport, who has the basic message that get rid of the distractions, close off the distractions, and get something done every day. Really focus. Do that deep work that really creates value and doesn't just keep up with the tide every day that we all have coming at us.
I think I might need to add that to my reading list. I struggle with that every day. Look, Brad, thank you so much for spending time. I know listeners of the podcast are going to get a ton out of this. Also appreciate you making the time because I know you're off to Dubai and then some downtime in Spain, which kind of, hashtag jealous. I wish I was doing that. But
Someone's got to do
thank
it.
you so much.
You're welcome, Simon. It's a real privilege to be with you, and I can't wait to see how the future podcasts evolve. I'm looking forward to seeing where you take things here.
Awesome. Thanks again.
That's it for this session. Let us know what you think or recommend someone for a future session at cxii.com.au. This podcast is brought to you by the Customer Experience Innovation Institute. Thanks for joining us and tune in again soon to hear more CX sessions.